Alright, so Tiger 8 wants me to show him all of the changes I made to Depthness. First off, I moved this mini portal here because I don't know, I just wanted to. I think I very slightly buffed this first click. You could call this a buff, technically, but I moved this over here because I kept landing on the corner of this block and I didn't like that, so I just made it so that this part was a timing. I added a teleport portal here because this dash orb click was kind of inconsistent. I was going to add like the Clutterfunk V2 dash orb gimmick thing, but Tiger 8 didn't respond until I had already verified the level. I added an extra spike here because before, if you clicked too late on this blue orb, you would die to this spike over here, and I really hate gameplay like that, so I just made it so you couldn't do that. I added another H block here because sometimes I died to this block and I didn't like that either. I added a correction block here because sometimes when you clicked this green orb too late, you'd hit this spike. This blue orb click was like fucking impossible before, so I nerfed it quite a bit. You could technically call this a nerf, but I call it more of a bug fix. I made it so that this slope is kind of on top of the spike because before, you would die in the transition to the cube, and every time I died there, I just wanted to cry. Since you're not supposed to hold here, right? And before, this click was a micro click, and I fucking hate blue orb micro clicks that are like this. So I added J blocks down here. I also moved this wall of spikes a bit to the right because if you clicked this too late, then you would die to this wall of spikes, except you wouldn't die to this gap. I also nerfed this click a bit because it had a speed change in it, and, invisible speed change transitions are not exactly fun or easy. I nerfed this click by removing the spikes that were over here, because clicks off of slopes are just known to be awful. This is probably, one of the biggest changes I made to the level. I added a saw down here, and I moved this saw a little bit, so that this pink orb had turned into a timing. And I also layered the pink orb on top of the spider portal. I also added a black orb here because that click is kind of inconsistent. I actually changed this click a bit. There used to be a block to nerf this click. I just deleted that and I made that platform extend out a little bit more. I added a transition fixture to this UFO part because before, this click depended on when you clicked in this spider part, and I didn't like that. So generally for this ball part, I buffed it until it became unfun, and then I nerfed it until it became fun again. Then with this whole wave, I basically just super buff everything. The one thing I did not super buff are these clicks because it was hard to buff without making it feel just inconsistent. Oh fuck, I love going through production and then finding a million bugs in my verification. I made all of these slopes not have hitboxes by using the 3D lines, except I didn't really like how that played, so I added this structure on top of everything in order to make this click just feel a bit better. And then I also added another structure here to buff the wave again. The wave is super buffed. Every single click in the wave is buffed, other than those two that I mentioned earlier. I added some spikes here because before, if you clicked too late, you could hit this spike. I added this saw because before you could buffer that black orb and then skip this click. And then I may have buffed this slightly. But overall, the level is just harder and better. There's not a lot of buffs in the first part. In fact, I would argue that the first half is easier in this copy. The second half is definitely a lot harder than it was before. I just think it's a lot more balanced. For me, at least, it's still a little bit first half heavy, but I wanted it to be first half heavy because I know that a lot of other people prefer first half heavy levels, even though I don't.
End video now, end video.